Hey, you know every place got their own stories. In America, they got Bigfoot. Over in Scotland, the Loch Ness Monster. But us Filipinos, we got more than a few. Some crawl on top of the house, some fly in the dark, some you see the footprints appearing to be going away from you. But there's one that always comes up. Always. The one that don't chase you. Don't howl at the moon, he just sits up there in the trees, watching. They call him the Kapre. Most people who've had a run-in with him, they don't see him first. They smell him, a thick, strange smoke in the air. But not from a bonfire or someone cooking. It's earthy, bitter, like a rolled cigar that's been burning too long, mixed with something sharp. Like sulfur, that smell after a gun's been fired, burnt powder and heat. Then comes the pressure. The weight in the air, your hair at the back of your neck are standing. That's when you stop walking. Because you already know you're not alone anymore. So what is a Kapre? The simplest answer is this. He's been described as a tall, dark figure, shaped like a man, and surrounded by a strong smell, usually sulfur. Some say he's a giant sitting in trees. Others say he just stands in the shadows, always watching. But the details don't change much. Most people describe him as a massive figure. A man, or at least shaped like one. Sometimes covered in thick black hair. Other times darker than shadow. You'll find stories from all over the Philippines that say the same thing. A giant creature, the color of charcoal, with glowing red or amber eyes, sitting quietly in the branches of large trees, smoking a cigar that never seems to burn out. That's the classic image. That's what's been passed down for generations. In terms of size, the Kapre is always described as tall, extremely tall. Most say about 7 feet. Some say taller, and he's never thin. He's built thick, like a man who spent his whole life doing heavy labor. His skin, when it's seen, is dark. Really dark. Some people say it looks like burnt wood, rough, black, and dry. Others say it's not even skin, it's hair, thick, coarse, and growing all over his body. Then there are people who describe something else entirely. They say the Kapre doesn't look like a man made of flesh at all. They say he looks like a shadow, a standing shape, still shaped like a man, broad shoulders, arms, legs, but no face, no features, just darkness. The only thing people can see are the eyes. Glowing, always, usually described as red or amber. Sometimes orange, but always bright and always burning. In some stories, they shine like coals in a fire. In others, they're compared to lanterns floating in the trees. That's how you know you're looking at him. Not because of his face. There is no face. But because of the light coming from the dark. Now here's something people don't usually think about. Clothing. Almost no one ever says the Kapre is wearing clothes. But no one says he's naked either. It's just something that doesn't get mentioned. Not because people forgot, because they never noticed. They're too focused on the size, the eyes, the smell, and the feeling of being watched. Maybe he's wearing something, maybe he's not. But no one say it's naked. And that brings me to the smell, because that's the first way most people know he's there. Not a sound, not a flash, just a smell in the air before you see anything at all. Most describe it as sulfur. Like the smell of matches right after they're lit. Or the smell left in the air after a gun has been fired, strong, sharp, metallic, something that doesn't belong in the forest. Others describe it differently. They say it's tobacco. The heavy, earthy smoke of a strong cigar, and not a fresh one either, an old one. Still burning. That cigar is one of the Kapre's oldest traits in the stories. A big, thick roll of tobacco, usually clamped between his lips, always lit. The tip glows red, and the smoke drifts around him even when the wind doesn't blow. Some say the smoke comes down through the branches. Others say it floats around the whole tree. You smell it even when you don't see the glow. That's how people know he's nearby. Now let's talk about how the Kapre behaves. This part gets misunderstood by a lot of people. They assume something that looks that big, that dark with glowing eyes, must be violent. But here's the thing. There are no stories, none that I've come across, where a Kapre is known to physically attack a person. No stories of it strangling someone or throwing people into trees. Now maybe that's because no one would live to tell it if that ever happened. But more likely it's because violence isn't what it's known for. The Kapre doesn't move like that. Most stories describe it as still, calm, just watching. And when it does interact with people, it's not usually out of anger. Some even say the Kapre can be friendly. That might surprise some people, but yeah, there are accounts of it giving advice or helping in subtle ways. Giving warnings, guiding people who are lost, helping a farmer with the land. Some even believe the Kapre has magic, although nobody can tell you exactly what kind. Maybe it's the power to turn invisible. Maybe it's luck, or some kind of protection. The ones said to be helpful are sometimes called white Kapres. Now, just to be clear, they're not described as being white in color. That name most likely comes from the association with doing good. White as a symbol of light or kindness, not because anyone saw a Kapre with pale skin. And the stories say that after encountering one, whether you spoke to it or just passed it on the road, your luck might change. Most of the time it's for the worse. People talk about strange misfortunes that followed the encounter, a string of bad days, things going wrong without reason. But there are also stories where things get better. Some people report sudden blessings, good health, or opportunities showing up out of nowhere. Either way, you don't walk away from the encounter unchanged. Now about where they're found. That part's pretty well documented. Kapres are most commonly seen in wooded areas, deep jungle, heavily forested land, and more specifically they're tied to one particular tree. Not just any tree. A big one, old mango, acacia, or balete, especially those that have been standing for generations. That tree becomes its home. And in many communities, that tree becomes sacred. People will actually build around it, literally. They'll design the whole house or road so the tree isn't touched. They'd rather have it in the middle of their backyard than cut it down. Because they know you don't disturb a Kapre's home. But here's something people don't always expect. There are also stories of Kapres living in cities. Inside houses, on rooftops. Now, how can that be, right? Kapres live in trees. Well, the explanation that most elders give, and honestly, it makes sense to me, is that the tree was already there, long before the building. A lot of those urban homes were built over old land. That tree that was cut down was home to something. And if no proper offering was made, or if the spirit didn't agree, the Kapre might stay and cause problems and bad luck. It might even cause problems during constructions. There are many abandoned and unfinished homes, some almost done, and others halfway done. Maybe the family ran out of money, or maybe the Kapre caused the construction a lot of problems. I know a story like that, actually. This one's personal. There was a family who needed to cut down a large tree to build their house. And most people in the area knew it was a Kapre's tree. So they followed the ritual. An offering was made. They asked permission. And by what resulted, the Kapre agreed. The house was built, no issues, but years later, something strange started happening. Strange but not malicious. Always in one particular room, not in the hallway, not in the kitchen, not in the other bedrooms, just in that one room, the same exact spot where that tree and the main branch had once been. Visitors would stay overnight and tell the owners, "Hey, last night I felt the bed sink, like someone sat on the edge of the mattress," but when they looked, no one there. The family had a baby there, and at night the baby would start laughing like it was being played with. When checked, there's nothing, but it always happened every night. Others who've stayed there have said that they've felt like they were followed on the way to that house. But when they got there, the feeling subsided. Like whatever is following them can't follow them there. Some describe the presence, not heavy, not evil, just a presence. Others say that it's protecting that home and that it made that into its home. As the children grew up and moved away, that room was turned into a guest room. And in the end, everyone who stayed there came out just fine. A little shaken, maybe, and stories to tell. And yes, that house is still there and well maintained. Now you might be wondering, but is there a scientific explanation for any of this? Some people, especially those who didn't grow up with these stories, they try to look at it logically. They say maybe the Kapre is just misunderstood, that maybe what people saw in the trees, was some kind of animal, something real, something that hasn't been discovered yet. And to be fair, that idea is not so far off. You look at how people in the US talk about Bigfoot or how the Himalayas have stories of the Yeti. There's a whole field of study for that. They call it cryptozoology. The idea that maybe in remote places there are still creatures living that science hasn't caught up to yet. Some researchers have even come to the Philippines looking for signs. Large footprints, 3 markings. In one case, they found an area of flattened grass beneath a tree. Big enough that something heavy could have been sitting up there. There was no photo, no body, no hard proof, but they couldn't rule it out either. Then there's the psychological view. They say maybe the Kapre isn't a creature at all. Maybe it's a projection of fear, a way our ancestors explained things that were unexplainable. A way to teach respect for nature, for the forest, for silence. Some experts say the glowing eyes people talk about could be fireflies, or light filtering through the leaves just right. The smell of sulfur could come from rotting plants, swamp gas, or chemicals in the soil. And as for the feeling of being watched, maybe that's just your brain reacting to the unknown. Anxiety, instinct, that's the science of it. But then you talk to people who actually lived through it. And the answers aren't so easy because for every scientific reason, there's a moment that doesn't fit. People who saw the eyes, who smelled the smoke from nowhere, who heard laughter with no one around. And when these stories happen across different provinces, in different languages over generations, you start to realize something. These aren't random ghost stories. This is a pattern. Believers, especially in rural communities, they don't see the Kapre as a monster. They see him as a presence, a nature guardian, something old, something that stays quiet until it has reason to show itself. And they say the reason we keep seeing it, even in modern times, is because we keep forgetting what we were taught. Cut down the wrong tree, build over sacred ground, and you might not see the Kapre himself, but you'll feel him. And you're unlucky for a long time. And there's no lab test for that. Now I don't blame anyone for trying to explain it. That's how we make sense of things. But for me, it's not about proof. I tend not to believe in many things until I've seen them. But there are things that I've encountered and felt that my mind still refuses to acknowledge. So that's the Kapre as best as we know him. Tall, shadowy, watching from the trees, sometimes helpful, sometimes quiet, but always there, if you know what to look for. There's a lot more we could talk about, no? We haven't even gone into the stories of the Kapres that fall in love with humans, or the ones that guard treasure deep in the forest, or the ones that fight other spirits. Maybe next time, if you enjoyed this, don't forget, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments if you want us to go deeper into the Kapre, or if you'd like to hear about the other folklores of the Philippines. There's plenty. There's one with a human body and horse head. There's one described as a giant bird and makes a very loud sound. There's even one where you see its footprint walking away from you, but guess what? Its feet is backwards, and it's already on top of you, ready to attack. Just let me know. And don't forget to hit that notification bell, so you'll know when the next one's up. Take care always. And when you pass by an old tree, especially at night, tabi-tabi po, just in case.